Hello everybody. Hello my respected colleagues. I'm so glad to be here with Na Урок project and all of you. I can see a lot of you are from different cities and towns around Ukraine. I'm very pleased to see my colleagues from Odessa, from Dnipro and Kirovohrad region and Lviv as well. So everybody, you're so welcome to join us today at this talk which is devoted to teaching listening skills to teenagers in particular. At first, I will tell a couple of things about myself. It's been my third or fourth presentation with this project, so you might have already met me here, but anyway, just a reminder, my name is Anna. I am Celta and Delta certified teacher. I'm a teacher of English as a foreign language to adults, to teenagers and younger learners as well. I received my qualifications through Cambridge University in England, and so I'm glad to share with you everything I know about teaching listening today. So here's the plan of the presentation of our talk today. So it's we'll talk about listening and the communicative approach. As you probably know, Celta and Delta certificates are all about communicative approach. And throughout my career, I believed a lot in communicative approach. That is true, and I do believe in its methods now. But still, I have developed a fresher look on teaching listening, among other skills, which I'm going to share with you today. Next, we are going to speak about how teaching listening is actually different from designing a listening lesson. And I will briefly cover materials and task types. I can see a question on the chat now. I used to work for International House for 10 years. So yeah, I'm sorry, I'll probably read the question. So what institution do you work for? And like I said, I used to work for International House, and now I'm a freelance teacher running my own private practice with adults and teenagers. Thank you for the question. So, listening and the communicative approach. Listening is one of 4 skills that is tested by any English language test that you might come across, such as TOEFL or IELTS or FCE and other Cambridge tests. All Cambridge tests, they test 4 systems, like I said, listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And they always test 2 language systems, which is grammar and vocabulary. So to develop your language, to develop the student's language in a balanced way, we need to develop their 4 skills: their listening, their ability to speak and write and read in English. So communicative approach gives a lot of useful information about how to design a listening lesson. Because teachers normally, they have problems, okay, if they ask their students, okay, listen to this, basically. Their students just don't figure it out. They don't understand. That is why communicative approach has developed a full procedure that you can see on your screens now. So in order to administer a listening lesson or a listening task, you begin with a lead-in task. You show a photograph, you activate your students' schemata on the subject that is going to be covered by your listening track. If you realize that your students might be unaware of some vocabulary, you pre-teach that vocabulary before the listening, so they don't get stuck. After that, so the next point says that you create a purpose for listening. Because in real life, we never listen for nothing. We always listen either for the gist, like when we listen to a friend's story, or we listen for details, just like when we listen at the airport and we need to figure out the gate number. So we don't need all the rest of the information apart from our gate number. So that's the typical listening for detail. So these are the two types of listening discovered by the communicative approach. And all the tasks are designed respectively. So basically, the first time you listen for the gist, you listen to the general picture, and the task will demonstrate that. And the second task, your students are required to listen for detail, and so the task will show that as well. So it will be more specific about specific aspects of the track. Afterwards, the communicative approach advises to develop the listening into a speaking exercise, because listening is believed to be a receptive skill and speaking is a productive skill. So there is like a connection. So that's how the listening lesson is designed. And oftentimes, if you read an article, say anywhere on an English language teaching resource, like the British Council or the BBC article, they will also share some points with you, like what to consider. Like it says here, selecting level appropriate comprehensible input. That is, level appropriate, that is clear, right? But comprehensible, so as a teacher, you need to evaluate what exactly your students are able to understand at this point in terms of listening, and what kind of track will be feasible for them. So raising confidence, creating an unthreatening environment. What is that about? That is about the idea that when our students or us ourselves are afraid, we can't really perceive information, can we? That's why the environment, the atmosphere must be as friendly as possible. That's the teacher's responsibility to create such an environment for the students, in order for them to be able to perceive information. And through that non-threatening and welcoming, friendly atmosphere, you reduce the students' fear of listening as such, and gradually you teach them to not be afraid of unknown words if they come across those in a listening text. So you teach them the skill of ignoring these words if they are unnecessary. Sometimes that happens, or just trying to guess them from the context. So that's the brief overview of what communicative approach tells us about developing listening skill. Now, here is an example taken from a teenage book. So here is your lead-in task. What type of TV or online shows do you remember? And then, if you'd been learning some types of TV shows with your students previously, then your students will be able to tell you that they remember a sitcom, they remember a reality show, or a movie, or a talk show, or some current affairs show, the news, a cartoon, and that kind of thing. So there will be a list of different shows, probably. Now, what are they about? So a reality show is about somebody's real life, right? A cartoon is an animated show, and so on, about the lives of different characters in extraordinary situations, for example. So that's an activation task. After which, you show them a photograph. So the photograph in the book that I'm talking about showed people fighting over a remote control. And so the question is, look at the photo, who are the people, what are they fighting over? After that, when your students get to listen to the dialogue between the four people, they find out that they are discussing what it is that they would like to watch at the moment. What's the show? And So the third task says, listen to the dialogue and check your ideas from exercise 2. That's the gist task, right? You don't have to understand all the listening text. You only need to understand this one aspect, what the people are fighting over, and whether my idea, when I looked at the picture, whether my idea was right. That's all you need to do, basically. If you don't understand the rest of it, it's just fine. You managed to complete the task. That's what is needed. Then the fourth task on the slide here says, listen again and complete the table. Now you get the names of all the participants, and your job is to figure out what sort of a show they would like to watch. That is clear from the conversation, apparently, and so the students now need to listen more carefully and attentively in order to match the names of the participants with the shows that they would like to watch. So they complete the table, then there are these stages of pair checking and then open class checking. That is also to raise confidence, by the way. It's one of the tools of raising confidence in class. Before an open class feedback, always remember to allow the pair feedback, okay? So the students can compare what they heard and check their answers together. That makes them feel safer, as a rule. Once you've checked it as an open class, then there is the speaking part, like a communicative approach instructs us, right? So what are your favorite shows and why do you like them? So that's when you ask students to discuss those shows and share their personal experience of watching shows of different kinds, and yeah, discussing why they like them, discussing the reasons. But again, this is all great, this is all correct, and this procedure should absolutely be followed. But what I'm talking about when I mean the listening skill, it's quite hard to break it down. What is listening skills? What does it involve? Okay, I see this question. What is the most effective way to actively engage learners during online and offline lessons? I will return to that question, but slightly later, okay, at the end. So anyway, my question was that listening is a skill that involves quite a few sub-skills. How do we break it down? What kind of sub-skill? What does listening involve? And I wanted to draw a parallel between listening and a different skill that is more understandable, that is more tangible. Say, like riding a bicycle. What does riding a bicycle involve? It's a complex skill, isn't it? So, like I put here, I'm no good at riding a bicycle, just so you know, but I checked with my friends who are better at that. So it involves balancing, right, and pedaling and braking. So all this, like you see, and dodging obstacles, and also shifting, like changing gear and starting, getting on and getting off the saddle, and turning and leaning in a specific way, right? So all of these little sub-skills constitute riding bicycles successfully. So I mean, listening is also a complex skill. Do you practice distinguishing words and pronunciation prior to listening? Oh, that's a great question. That's exactly what I'm talking about today, and this talk is just an answer to that question. So thank you. Anyway, listening. What does listening involve? And I've broken it down into two big groups. Listening is about, first of all, recognizing individual sounds. All of us probably know such words as minimal pairs. Minimal pairs are words that are different from one another in only just one sound, like a pen and a pan, like a bin and a bean, like beer and bear, you know. And as English language involves certain sounds that we do not possess as as the speakers of Russian or Ukrainian. That is why for us, recognizing these sounds might be quite hard. And this is something that you need to teach your students to do. And the second huge feature is understanding connected speech. That is, okay, your students know a lot of words, a lot of them are familiar to them. But what if these words occur in the flow of fast speech? We all know this feeling when we first listen to some authentic text, or even inauthentic adapted text from a textbook. We sometimes feel frustrated because it's just too fast for us to grasp. Oh my God, the teacher speaks so clearly, but then when they play this track, it's all mixed up. That's because even adapted textbooks, they show us connected speech, even though it is slightly slower than authentic natural speech. It is still connected speech, and so we might not recognize our familiar vocabulary in the flow of connected speech. There are quite a few features of connected speech that you might want to teach your students, but today I have put just the three of them. The first one is a Schwa sound. Schwa sound is one of the most popular sounds in the English language, just so you know. Sometimes you may hear the term a weaker form, so stronger forms and weaker forms. For example, good afternoon. Somebody says good afternoon, everybody who's joining. I'm using this as an example. Good afternoon. Good is a weak sound, and so we say good kind of good afternoon. That's a Schwa sound. So at least two Schwa sounds there, although you might think that those are some different sounds, but in the flow of connected speech they become reduced, weak. Now, so I will speak about the features of connected speech right here and why we need them. So Schwa sound, something that I started talking about. It is crucial for listening because of the Schwa sound. Some of the phrases sound exactly the same, and I've put a few examples there for you. So, where's the waiter? That's one. Now, is this the way to the school? Okay, the way to the school sounds practically the same. And can you wait a minute? And again, wait a minute. That's also. And yeah, we are teachers, we have a lot of experience of the language. And of course, we would not confuse, we would not be mixed up in between these sentences. But our students might be. They might hear something that's not there unless they've had practice with it. Now, the second phenomenon that I teach my students about is elision, which is the omission of sounds or sometimes the entire words to make speech easier and faster. So there are a few examples like fish and chips, and who says and? Nobody does. And when you listen to some authentic text, to a sitcom, for example, they will reduce and all the time, you know, and it's confusing if you don't know that it happens. Now, I don't know. Yeah, as teachers we do that, we break it down, but native speakers say things, I don't know. Yeah, and that's how it's said, and that's how your students are supposed to recognize it. Some sounds are totally gone. See, camera. column. That is called, this phenomena at the bottom of the slide is called age dropping. It's even got its name. When the words that begin with an H, sometimes it's have, sometimes it's his and her, so just the H is gone. They drop it. They don't need it. Now, the third phenomenon that was on the slide is called catenation. And this catenation is basically linking words together. You know, when a word ends in a consonant and then the next one starts with a vowel, you don't take a break there. You don't breathe in between, right? Our students often do that. They say, he's an architect. And then you teach them from the start to do that. He's an architect. So that when they listen, they recognize that this word was actually an article and a noun coming after. Like in my example, it's an egg. What's an egg, right? But if you explain the phenomenon, such confusion might be reduced. Now, give it up. Give it up. There are two examples of catenation in one short sentence. So give it up. You see, there isn't a break in between any of those words. The same, turn it off. So it's like basically what your students hear is ter, then nit, ni, tof, something like that. And when you teach them about these, that becomes an easier thing to grasp. And I'm going to share a few task types that teach students to do that. Here is a cool book. So somebody was asking me whether I practice distinguishing words and pronunciation prior to listening. We could do that in a parallel because listening and pronunciation are really connected skills. So here is the book here. It's called English Pronunciation in Use. I took the elementary. It's got a few levels there, so you might want to select the one appropriate for your students. So have a look. This slide is devoted to teaching individual sounds. Remember, I told about individual sounds first, and then features of connected speech. So we don't have, in Russian and Ukrainian, we don't have such a thing as a length of sound, a length of vowel. So I and E sound just the same. So this task here, see, it says listen to check your answers. At first, you're kind of supposed to identify those by yourself. So you're supposed to identify whether it's an I or an E. You could do it that way, or you could do it vice versa. You could play the track first, and then ask your students based on what they hear to identify, circle whether it's an E and underline if it's an I sound. Or, alternatively, you could do it the way the book suggests, but in that case, you might want to draw to build the associations between spelling and the sound. So you might say that the double E technically usually gives you the E sound, the longer one, or the EA gives you the E sound, the longer one too. And when it's single I in between two consonants, then it's probably the shorter sound. So you might do that. Well, it's up to you. It's your teacher's choice. So it's one of the example tasks. Now here it says, let's have a pizza for dinner. Okay, so that's a pizza and then for dinner. We're always busy, and then you find busy, busy, busy. For example, in the office. And then you ask your students again to identify which sounds these are. Are they I or E? Okay. Would you like tea? So that's an E. Would you like tea or coffee? It's another E. Okay. So that kind of thing. So that teaches you to identify, to hear the differences. Now, that's my favorite. That's the minimal pairs. When you listen and circle the word that you hear. Sometimes it's about different vowels like it is here. Cat and cut. or had and hard, because that may sound similar too. Men and man, oh my God, that's the source of confusion forever. I have just taken out certain tasks, but these task types appear throughout the book. So you might easily adjust the book to the purposes of your lesson or to the difficulties of your particular students. Now, the next one here is about, again, teaching listening subskills, but now the features of connected speech. Now, here is an example of catenation task. First, you play the track, and then you ask your students to repeat it without making those pauses. Speak it, write it, read it, so without breaking the sentence. So these are poems. These are fun, they have rhythm. After the poems, the book also suggests doing it yourself, like linking, where you expect this catenation to happen. And again, listening, checking, and then pronouncing too. This task here is about the role of a Schwa sound. Like I said, because of the Schwa sound, certain chunks of speech may sound just the same to a student. So there's the waiter, can you wait a minute? And so your students are asked to find these matching pairs that have chunks that sound exactly the same, such as not at all, and what would be the matching one? Oh, I heard a loud noise. Building on your left, know a lot about music, not at all. Okay, so you walk along the beach. So there is a pair that sounds quite the same. Okay, so the task for the students is to find the pair that sounds that and match it. Okay, here is a question. Do you always manage to do all the listening tasks in one lesson? If you mean the procedure that the communicative approach advises, such as the pre-listening task and then all the two listening tasks and then the speaking, then you might not be able to fit that all in one lesson. But that's okay, as long as you can begin the following lesson with the refreshment task, with the activation task, and then refresh the vocabulary, and then probably and then do the speaking task in the following lesson. Okay, so probably that would be the best place to break it down. Okay. Like all the listening tasks in one, and then the production task the following class. Don't break it down between listening 1 and listening 2, okay? Because it won't make sense. The students will not remember the following class what you stopped at or what they heard. So it won't work as listening 1 and listening 2. It'll work as listening 1 and listening 1. And thanks a lot for the compliment. Oksana, thank you so much. So, anyway, the next question was, why would you teach that? Why would you teach features of connected speech? Why would you teach individual sounds to your teenage students? First of all, I understand that there are limitations of secondary school, and that within the secondary school program, it's not always possible to include some of the tasks that I'm talking about, because yeah, you are limited to certain procedures, to certain amounts of material to be taught during a specific period of time. But just in case, if the school program allows that, it is really important to include such tasks in specifically teenage program, because teenagers are the most open towards any authentic material, and they are open to any media content, and a lot of it is in English these days. Even popular Instagram bloggers or TikTok bloggers post videos in English with English voiceovers, and it is important for teenagers to understand modern content. Here is a question: where can we find these listening tasks? Just a sec, I will talk about a resource, a resource full of listening tasks for you. So just a moment, Galina, thank you for the question. So anyway, teenagers are really open to that, and they need authentic material. And if they don't know these features, that's hard for them to deal with specifically authentic material. So when you teach them about this connected speech, it's like an open door, you know, they soon understand the practical use. And as teachers, I strongly recommend using authentic material in class without being afraid of your students not understanding it, because it's definitely up to you how you set the task and what purpose you create for them to listen to the task. Because Lexical Approach, and the author, the founder of Lexical Approach, Michael Lewis, believes that listening is a basic skill for any elementary and any early level students. That means that the amount of listening has to be increased from what we have in class to like this much, okay? So you should encourage your students to listen to as much as they possibly can of any sort of English language material. English language songs, English language podcasts, sitcoms, and any videos, because this listening, it kind of fills you up with the rhythm and the music of this language that you are learning, okay? So the purpose of listening is not only to understand everything 100%, but is also to enjoy, and is also to discover things about yourself as a learner. For example, I said one of my listening tasks is called listening for the music. It's not listening to music, it's not listening to a song, it's listening for the music of the language. And I play a piece of authentic video, for example. I don't even show the video to my students. I bring in a laptop and play an episode of Friends that I particularly like, or play an episode of any other sitcom that might be enjoyable for my teens. I play it and ask them, guys, sit back and relax. Tell me, do you hear any familiar words? And most of the time they do, even when they are elementaries. Now then I can show them the video and ask them to watch and listen for the gist and tell me just what happened. They can tell that to me in Russian if they can. But in this way, I create confidence and reduce the fear of authentic videos, okay? So they can watch it, they can grasp some familiar words there, and they can give me the general idea. That's how it works. They can generally understand a part of a sitcom. I mean, that's brilliant. May pupils use mobile apps with podcasts? I allow my students to do that because, well, that's where our progress is taking us. You know, we can't really study these days without the use of technical advances, given the lockdown or anything. How much time or minutes can we do such methods in a 40-minute lesson? Well, like I said, there are state school limitations, and a listening lesson is a lesson. A listening lesson is a full-length lesson. So if you plan to listen in class, then yeah, that's going to be your main focus, Marina. That's going to be the main focus of your class. So you will focus it around listening, around the pre-listening tasks, pre-teaching vocab, doing the tasks, and then doing the speaking tasks if you can. So, yeah, so what I was saying is about the resource. Let's see how that works. What do I do? That's here. This resource is called Esl Library. Unfortunately, it's a paid resource. You pay for it once a year. I'm not sure if you can, for example, share the payment with your colleagues. Say the two of you or the three of you share the payment and then log in using the same account. I'm not sure if that works or whether the account is attached to a specific device or to a specific IP address. I'm not sure. So Larissa, where can we find these listening tasks? As I was saying, that was the book called English Pronunciation in Use, Level Elementary. This book is sold. You could get it from different online shops, or you could try and find it in some other resources, although I can't be talking about pirating resources. But you know. So anyway, Esl Library. Here's materials. You go to lesson. Oops, I have to log in again with it. Sorry. Here are these lesson types. Discussion starters and debates and simple sentences and grammar and everything. So there is a lot to explore. My favorite part here is grammar stories. You can always select the level if you want. Now here, simple present and present progressive, simple past, and so on. So basically there is like a story. The simple present story is beginner's level. And here's the PDF viewer. So you press that and you get the teacher's file. So basically that's you get it as a reading. And here you get this audio. So you can play the audio without your students reading the text. It depends on your purpose, because reading and listening together is also a very meaningful task, especially for elementaries. If you practice that, I strongly recommend practicing reading and listening together, because that helps our students to build connections between what it says and what you can hear. Okay? But I often use these tasks for reproductions. These are my favorite tasks to combine the listening skill and writing skill. So basically it only includes the verb to be and the present simple and some really basic grammar items. So when you play it, you follow the procedure. It's very easy to design your own tasks for that, and then I would finish this task with the writing task. Please write a reproduction, I would ask my students. So when I set up those listening tasks, I ask them, okay, listen for the first time, listen for the gist, find out what the guy's hobbies are, for example. After that, I will ask a few detailed questions, and I will ask them to listen the third time, listen to the track the third time and take notes. Then I would stop it and ask them to produce a little written text. So that's what I call reproduction, okay? And so you've got so many, look how many listening tasks you have to practice these basic. Now, if you want to work on it as a different type of lesson, not just a listening lesson, a grammar lesson, a reading lesson, you can do that with the help of this resource. So I guess I answered about the finding the listening task. So this resource is just perfect. As for listening for music, somebody said they liked this idea. I recommend taking pieces of authentic material, episodes of sitcoms, episodes of interviews with teenagers' favorite stars, TikTok and Instagram videos. Use anything that might be meaningful, because for teenage students, this part, the meaningful part is the most important, right? So they have to understand that what you teach them is about real life, is about what they're going to use and what they're going to watch and what they will be interested in. So go with the flow, choose the authentic materials that they will enjoy. Now, I think I answered the question about mobile apps and podcasts. Absolutely yes. On my part, absolutely do that. Also, if you keep, I always keep Telegram chats with my students. So here is a group of students. I organize and run a chat with them. I do homework reminders through this tool, and I also record audio messages. So as a teacher, you could record an audio message on the go, like you would record a video for your Instagram stories, you know, just walking by. You'll record an audio message for them, a welcome message, I wish you a good day, guys message. And that's also like an on-the-way listening practice, you know. It doesn't have a task, it doesn't have a goal, it has an interactive goal, okay? You just interact with them, they know you're interested in them, and they also get to listen to some good English speech with good pronunciation and lovely choice of vocabulary. Why not? Grammar fairy tales. Well, if you could find those, it depends on the age. As I was talking about teenagers, so I focused more on teenage topics, more or less. Okay, how much time or minutes can we do? I think I spoke about that. And and I've covered the resources. So I am really grateful to all of you. Is it good to use TED Talks? Absolutely, they are amazing. TED Talks are lovely. If you can use them, for like as a piece of authentic language, yes, do that. They are amazing, especially if you manage to find a motivating topic for your students. So I'm very grateful to all of you for being here with me today, for asking all your wonderful questions, and for being with Na Урок project. Thank you very much.